Jane Saran-Pine, and present are Freeman Zausner and Renee, your last name, Renee. Grover, excuse me. So that makes a quorum. And Renee, your last name.
Sorry.
And also present at the meeting today is I seem to have lost my.
Mike. Also present is Mike Thayer,
Mike there.
the guest, and me, Max Johnstone, as the town planner.
Thank you. So I wonder if we should quickly ask if people have had a chance to review the past minutes of the meeting.
I did.
Yeah, I have a comment on the December 16th when you're ready.
Oh, damn. Why do I keep doing that? Here we go. I would like to look at that too, but I'm not sure. Here we go. December 16th meeting had Renee was present, Freeman, Max, Ted Worcester. I was not. Where are your comments, Freeman?
Where it says under Cumberland about sprinklers, I did want to have heat and smoke central station monitoring, but the last part of that, sprinklers only work to apply to the entire town. That phrase I would strike it. I don't think I said, it doesn't make any sense. Because you could have sprinklers in any particular house. I just don't think that it's the right approach economically or otherwise.
So was that not presented at the meeting, or?
I think it's misinterpreted what I said. I just like to strike. I don't think I said it. So I would just say Freeman responded by saying monitoring should be required for heat and smoke. Kill the rest of the line.
Okay.
And any other comments on December's?
Not here.
January. It was you, me. There was no quorum in January, so there's really nothing to approve in some sense.
We all still meet.
And then the June 15th. There was a quorum. And Mike was present. And essentially, it was at that meeting that Renee, we wanted to have a meeting that we were sure that you attended.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me that the December 16th minutes need to be approved as revised.
Mhm.
I don't know whether we would approve any minutes from January 27th since there was not a quorum.
You can approve it. I like to just have those, even if they're not a quorum, I like to have those minutes just because we did still
our
meet and talk.
Yep,
Because I believe that was the one with Stan Waltz, correct?
it was.
So I would like to at least I'd like to at least have those just because we did have that discussion.
And then the June 15th meeting was the most recent where Mike also attended.
Correct.
So is there a motion to accept these minutes?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
There we go. Thank you. Now we can move into old business. So Freeman, you started to draft an outline, I guess I would call it. But again, it's the environmental issues that are really our questions.
I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up the agenda.
I am too. And I'm just, oh, I've got the wrong. It's the June meeting that I wanted to point out to Renee, actually, that Mike, I don't know if you had an opportunity to read those minutes, Renee?
I glanced at them briefly. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
been so
No,
crazy.
no, I understand. And so I guess we're concerned about safety issues, health issues, and discharge, wastewater discharge, and sewage discharge, and I'm trouble reading this thing. And there was a discussion about mold.
Mhm.
So those topics, if you could enlighten us with your experience about them.
Sure. I will tell you right now that no caregiver likes any type of mold. And as for, let's start in order. Let's go to wastewater discharge. Most of the people that I know, I mean, we don't overwater to the point where there's a lot of overflow for the plants. That only comes like when we flush them at the end of their cycle. But still, basically it's just regular, water with maybe some nutrients residue in it, which most nutrients for marijuana is organic. So I don't think that's really posing a health or environmental issue whatsoever. I have a very green lawn, that's for sure. And as for mold and mildew and pesticides, we can't really use anything chemical on marijuana plants because it basically kills them. So anything that we do use for mold and pesticides is organic. So basically it's usually a mix of garlic oil, neem oil, just a bunch of plant oils that will take care of the problem without having to use anything chemical.
So besides growing the plants though, isn't there a process once they're grown that you go through that uses other chemicals?
No.
Well, let me just interject a minute if I could. I know people are trying to make organic, quote unquote, organic marijuana. And certainly there are nutrients and pesticides that are organic. Nutrients could consist of seaweed, they can consist of manure, they could consist of any of a number of organic things. And if those got into a septic system, well, those are the same nutrients that the human body passes off too. So as long as they're not in use in excess of what a human would excrete or a family would excrete, you don't really have a problem with nutrient pollution. I don't know the efficacy of organic fungicides and pesticides. We use neem oil on occasion here, but we also use conventional pesticides here. If we were looking to, if the town was looking to regulate it, I would just say use only US EPA approved pesticides and herbicides if you use it, if you use them. But neem oil is a naturally occurring oil, and garlic oil, obviously, that's a naturally occurring substance either, with a well-proven record of safety. So, you know, if the town is looking to regulate the discharges to groundwater, again, if this is an industrial type operation with an acre of pot plants, yeah, you might want to consider, you know, some sort of the volume, particularly of nitrogen pollution, not phosphorus or potassium, but nitrogen pollution. You'd probably want to regulate the amount of nitrogen going into the groundwater, because nitrogen ammonia gets converted to nitrate, which does have some issues associated with it. But for an average, you know, homeowner garden scale operation, I see no problem with nutrients. And neem oil, I see no problem with that. Garlic oil, I see no problem with that. And even conventional fungicides, I'm told that the humidity in growing marijuana under lights can lead to mildew and molds growing on them, and some sort of fungicide like Captan, as long as you use it according to EPA directions. It's a federal crime to not use it according to federal directions. I think that would be enough.
Also, just to
include
sorry
in
to interrupt,
a
but also in the state of Maine, if you are a caregiver, you have to have a pesticides license in order to use pesticides.
to use pesticides on the plants.
Anything other than organic.
Okay. And the question was asked about the processing. Making hash oil. Hash oil can be done with solvents, or it can be a simple mechanical press that uses no chemicals at all.
That is
And
out of
if
my
you
realm.
were to use solvents, pardon me?
That is out of my realm. I do not process, so I
Well,
don't really know much about it.
okay. There are chemicals that are highly toxic that might be used to extract hash oil. Again, I would just, in the interest of safety, I would say if you want to make hash oil, use a mechanical press and don't use solvent extraction.
So Renee, would you know whether any of the caregivers do?
I don't know anybody around here locally that does it. Most of them now, with all the state regulations and laws, you have to actually register with the state, I believe, whether you are a processor or a grower. So the state is monitoring processors as well as edibles and just growers like I am.
I guess my question is it possible though that some of the caregivers could be using processes that you don't?
Oh, of course there is.
Yeah, I wonder how we would find that out.
You can't.
Yeah.
It's just like if somebody's a processor, you know, you can put all the laws that you want, but I guess you'd have to catch them, you know. And also, you know, whatever anybody does with their own personal grow, you know, I don't think the town can do anything about them. You know, I mean, I know that they do extract with butane, CO2 extraction. But honestly, I've never done or seen the practice myself, so I can't really tell you anything.
I'll tell you, you mentioned butane. If people were extracting with butane, I would urge them to stop doing it because it's so flammable. CO2.
I'm sure they're well aware that it is.
And CO2 requires some really elaborate equipment to handle. Liquid CO2 is a good solvent, but it has to be stored under pressure. So it's really hard to use. So, but it's essentially non-toxic, and non-flammable. But the butane, I would have people who are smoking marijuana handling butane. That's not a good combination. Your
choice, I guess.
perception. Well, if they want to blow themselves up, well,
Pretty much. I mean, smoking concentrates uses a butane torch. I mean, there's many things out there that are probably bad for a lot of people, but we can't just try to regulate all of them. And I don't believe there's any processors who actually make oil in Waldoboro. You might be able to call the state and they might be able to give you a list of anybody who is registered as a processor, but they're not going to tell you who they are, where they are.
I'm familiar with the law. Is it legal to make hash oil?
Yep.
In the state of Maine?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Well, if they are using butanes or flammable solvents, I think a requirement that the fire department inspect their apparatus might be a good way of going about that.
Which is not possible. You have to be an elected official in order to go into somebody's grow facility.
Well, again, I'm not familiar with the law. I'm just tossing out ideas here.
Oh, yeah.
But extracting with flammable solvents is a fire hazard. You know, at the very least, you need sprinklers. At the very least, you need fire alarms. All electrical wiring has to be would have to be electrically classified, and just the lamps for electrical classification are very expensive. You have to plug conduits. There can be no running open wires. I'm trying to remember whether it's class 1 or class 2 explosion protection is usually required when you're handling butane.
So Mike, if I can just jump in on two things. One, your camera is like slowing down, like you're jumping all over the place. You may want to turn the video back on.
Okay, can you see that?
You're just a still frame.
Video's on.
The video's on. Yeah, but well, it's a minor thing. But and then the second one is just as a reminder of the scope. We're not really focusing on processing. I think that was a real left field thing. I think this committee was more focused on just the home caregivers.
Okay.
Distribution. Unless
Well, it came up last week.
Yeah. Unless we do actively write language allowing it, we don't allow any medical or recreational type of processing that would involve hash oils or anything like that.
Okay.
Something I just wanted to point out.
Okay.
So Freeman, did you have any comments?
I think that covered it. There was a handout. I think, hold on, Mike. It said safety issues, cannabis-related facilities from the NFPA that he had either handed out or referred us to, which I thought was interesting. I don't want to necessarily discuss it, but I hope everybody reads it.
Who handed that out?
I thought that Mike did, or he referred to it, because what he has just referred to before is called the NFPA, which I guess is the National Fire Protection Association, and talks about some of the things you just talked about. It also talks about egress, lights, electrical loads, fumigation, locks, barriers, etc.
Maybe we could get a link to that, or Max could forward us all a link.
I was gonna
Renee,
say,
have you read this, Renee?
I have read up on some of the stuff, but not just the stuff that kind of pertain to caregivers. I guess what we need to decide is, what's going to be beneficial for the town. You can't, I thought we had discussed like electrical, we couldn't really put what they had to have for electrical service, but that it had to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Appropriate for what the size grow that they want to grow with. So that if the place does burn down and they had a 100 amp service and they needed a 200 amp service, then, then they wouldn't be compliant with the town regulation or whatever.
so
I just think a lot of these scopes that you guys are looking into, you're just getting a little too deep, that you really can't get that deep, because, the caregivers are protected and private. It's just, basically a guideline that you can make to have people follow, but whether they do it or not, you would have to have an elected town official go around and A, find out where the grows are, and B, check them. And know what they were looking for.
I think you make some good points, Renee. If we're me, I see this as prevention, and I wouldn't want to inspect. What I might want for a medical marijuana giver, this just thought, would be that they would show us that they had a professional engineer or certified master electrician look at the facility. I wouldn't want to look at it myself, because frankly, we wouldn't have the expertise to know. What we're trying to do is set up guidelines and regs that they would follow to prevent a problem, and that should not involve us inspecting their facility, but would actually inform them, like Mike Thayer's talking about the NFPA, that there are a lot of thought that's gone into the right practice, not just for them, but for welders. This doesn't just apply to medical marijuana. It would apply to anybody that does certain kinds of activities that we've learned, whether it's from OSHA or whatever, that have guidelines. And it would not meant to be intrusive. And in some cases, just reminding them of what the state law is. But you're right. I don't, we don't have the expertise, and we shouldn't really be on site inspecting facilities.
Well, and I mean, as for fire prevention, you can look at it two ways. If they're going to be boneheads enough in order to grow and risk burning down their house, trust me, their insurance company is going to take care of that. They're going to be out of a house, out of a grow, out of a business.
But we don't want that kind of, that's the horses out of the barn. We want prevention where
well, exactly. But guess what? They're private homeowners. It's not like we have,
Yeah, but I'm a private homeowner, and my home is built to code, and I have inspections, and I have things I
everybody
have to
should
do.
be.
What?
Everybody should be, according to guidelines and stuff. But who are you going to get to go around and make sure that they're doing this? We don't have anybody that can do this.
I think you're right, but we can say, do you have a certification from an inspector that's an electrical expert? At least that would tell us that they had someone inspect it. You can't cover everything.
I hear you. I mean, I'm all for safety and stuff. It's just when you get down to, having people show you a piece of paper, first of all, you don't even know who they are. How do you know that they're going to come in and show you one? Or
that we have to see if that would work. But I think that I know from my experience of having to comply with code that people do comply.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's also from the point of view of the consumer. It someday, and I guess it's not today, but someday maybe there will be an association of caregivers that actually does do their own self-inspection within the association, so that if you are a caregiver, you can have a stamp of approval saying this person has followed the guidelines of the state and the town, and they've gone above and beyond or whatever.
I mean, you guys are aware that there are medical marijuana state inspectors, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just
Good.
got inspected myself, and
good.
that's what they check. So why does there need to be an association?
Well, it's a way to help your industry maintain standards and even improve. And actually, if you were just inspected, would you not want to say, I've just been inspected, and so I passed every point of the inspection, and don't you want your clients or your patients to know that?
They don't care. I hate to break it to you guys, but as long as the product is good and they don't care where it comes from, I mean, unfortunately, as caregivers, you can get a good caregiver, you can get a bad caregiver. Some good caregivers actually follow all the rules and, have all of their products tested and stuff, but a lot of people don't, unfortunately, that's just the way it goes.
Mm.
And there are, medical marijuana groups and stuff like that, but, we don't go around and make sure we're all compliant.
Mm-hmm. No, I wouldn't imagine that you do at this point.
And with recreational looming at any given points, I think, I think you're going to see that the state is making it very impossible for people to get away with the things that they have been giving away with. And I think you're going to see a decline in the actual medical home marijuana caregivers as recreational looms. I know a lot of people that have already gone out of business now because they can't compete with, with what's going on in the state with regards to marijuana. So.
Renee, is the inspection you got because you had a retail practice, or was that one just because you were a medical marijuana caregiver?
It was just my turn. So it was all over video chat because of COVID. They actually can't come in person, but we did a video chat and I emailed him pictures and everything that he needed in order to show my compliance. I did have to, follow a whole long list of things that I needed to be compliant on. The only thing that I got dinged on, which I did not realize, was that my one set of scales I needed to have certified through the state. So that's it.
Were any of the other caregivers that worked out of their homes, do you know of any of them had that online interview?
I don't know. I know a lot of my other caregivers have been personally inspected in person. It's just because my name came up during COVID that I got to have mine all on video and stuff. So, but he wanted pictures from my office and what I sold and laboratory tests, and which it's not a requirement to have anything laboratory tested, but I do. So, but yeah, I passed with flying colors. So, and I think you're going to find now with recreational, they're going to have more inspectors. So a lot more people are going to be inspected more often than not. So. Oh, now I can see everybody all at once. Sorry, it's my first Zoom meeting.
So, Mike, do you have any other comments or questions?
Well, we never really closed the loop on the National Electric Code and NFPA. And it depends on the scale of things. You know, if somebody has a single 400-watt glow lamp, sodium vapor lamp to grow their plants under, that's not going to give anybody any heartburn. Even somebody who only has 100 amp service, you know, can easily put in a 400-watt lamp. But as you get into, you know, larger and larger growing rooms, hot houses or whatever, then things become a lot more, well, there's just more electricity.
Well, unfortunately, that's illegal. That's illegal anyway. That's kind of a moot point. I mean, we have a 32 plant limit
Understood.
per caregiver.
Understood as far as medical marijuana is concerned. And I'm actually sort of not taking sides here, but I agree with you. You know, just a single grow lamp growing 6 or a dozen or however many is permitted under state law, you know, that's not going to tax almost anybody's electrical system. I mean, a 400-watt grow lamp uses significantly less electricity than an air conditioner. So, you know, if your wall socket is say for an air conditioner, you can put 4 or 5 watts worth of grow lights up without any problem at all.
Yes, but also you don't need you know, we don't have any big grow facilities because we're not allowed to. We can't have recreational facilities. We can't have any more than our plants that we're allotted to in the state. So, you know, I mean, you can put 32 plants in a, you know, 12 by 20, 12 by 16 room and grow and be fine.
I'm sorry if I can just jump in here. I had to deal with someone who was looking for some papers. So what topic are we on right now? So because I've missed pretty much a good chunk of the meeting right now.
Electricity.
Electricity,
Okay.
the National Electric Code.
Yeah, that's something that's in the general performance standards. I thought this was something I thought we talked about last meeting as well. So I don't know what. Never mind. You go back to where you were. I just need to know what the topic was.
We did talk about it at the last meeting, but Renee was not present. So, and I think we've pretty much gone through each of the items we wanted to discuss today with Mike and Renee.
And also, just to throw it out there, I mean, the biggest facility, even for recreational, for a grow facility is 2,000 square feet. That's nothing. You know, I mean, 2,000 square feet is not a huge facility. And that is the maximum for the state of Maine for growing recreational, which is different. We're not based on square footage, we're based on plant count. So if that
And
eases anybody's mind with
something that
electricity.
Something that large as 2,000 square feet for recreational, I'd be more concerned about that than I would about home caregivers.
Well, we can't grow recreational, so there's no reason to worry.
So can we move on to new business? Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
The new businesses are recommendations to the select board, which is what we're really all about. And Freeman did a draft outline, which I don't believe everyone has seen. So maybe the thing to do is to circulate that with a view towards our next meeting to go over that and have any additions or anything to be stricken, whatever, or suggested changes. And then maybe we'll be in a position to give our recommendations to the select board. Is that too short a period of time for anybody? Not long enough?
So I'm sorry, so next marijuana committee meeting, that would be the 11th? What I have, or,
Let me look.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, because we're supposed to do the second Tuesday, but the only reason we did it the 4th this month was because of the election. So we could still have it for the second Tuesday, or we can move that time if people need it.
I can do 8/11.
Okay.
So,
Renee?
so again,
I can too, but if we're not gonna meet in person, can we do it like early in the morning?
oh,
That.
I have an appointment at 8 a.m. that day. But I could certainly do earlier than 3 o'clock.
Okay,
I could do noontime.
okay. I was just thinking maybe not do it right in the middle of the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I can do noon.
I will pass that on to Susan and Ted. Make sure they're aware of that.
Okay. Do we need a public announcement for that too, Max?
It is posted on the website. That's usually what we need to do for posting an announcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Freeman's draft will be circulated along with the document that Mike and Freeman both cited today. And maybe the draft minutes. Is there any further business?
I have one question. The moratorium that we passed in the spring, Max, when does that moratorium expire?
That will expire August 25th. That's something this committee doesn't have to worry about. I already have notified the select board. They won't be doing it tonight because it's after their agenda was already posted, but it'll likely be something that I'm going to do on the 11th anyway.
Okay,
But again, it's dispensaries, cultivation facilities, so you don't have to worry about that one.
Anything further?
I think I'm.
So being no further, I make a motion to adjourn.
seconded.
Thank you. Everybody, aye.
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 There we go.